Hi everyone, Jean visiting today. I hope you all have had a good week. Seems like Fridays are a good day for me to get away to be able to do videos for you. And I've been working on some floral items using felt or wool felt. I personally have a large stock of different colors of wool felt, so that's mainly what I use when I create my flowers. But I have created some here that are different styles. This one and this one are kind of the same. This one's just a shorter one. This is a taller one. And then we have this one with the really big petals. And then we have this one with just 4 petals. So as you can see, when you get them done, they're really pretty and they would look really nice on a wreath. And that's why I thought I would show you how to do these, because you can pick up felt online or at your local Walmart or what have you for very little. It used to cost hardly anything, like 25 cents a sheet. I'm sure it's gone up. But this is a fun thing to do, and you can use them for different things. So for spring, you can make a wreath. You can get a wreath base from the Dollar Tree and cover it with some burlap or something, and then put your flowers on and leaves, and you can find some sprigs of berries or something like that that you can use to as filler. But that is one of the options that you have for your flowers. Another option is if you make them shorter like this, they would look adorable on the front of a journal. You can even use these on the bottom of a tag if you want something big as a focal element down at the bottom or somewhere, or just use it as the focal element itself. You know from watching my videos that I'm all about 3-dimensional things. So usually, I have to turn this light a little bit. Give me a second. Usually when I'm making something that is a card or a tag or something, I like to add buttons or something small, and it ends up being a 3-dimensional element, which personally I think is fun because I like the textures and the different elements that you can add to tags and other artistic things that we make. So what I wanted to show you today are a version of these large flowers, but I have made all these little centers, okay? And I had one that I had made, and when I was cleaning up my desk, it looks like it got misplaced. So oh, here it is. Okay, so this is as tiny as I can manage to make them. And this is like maybe not even the size of a quarter, because if you look at it, it just fits right on my index finger. So they're quite small. And the smaller you roll the center, the smaller the flower will be. But I'll show you how to roll the centers. to roll the center, you need a strip of felt that's about, I mean, you don't even have to measure this. This is just 2.5 by an inch. So what I do, and this is because I don't have my hot glue gun plugged in, I'm just going to use my 3-in-1 glue, which actually works okay for this. The only problem that you have is that the glue seeps into the felt and it doesn't want to stick at first, but if you squeeze it a little bit, or if you have some of those clips that you can get for sewing, you can clip those on there. I just basically fold it, put the glue on it, and hold it for a little bit. Now, if I was going to do another really tiny one, what I would do with that is I would just cut this end and just use that piece. But once you have it folded, you basically just go along the folded end and snip it a little bit. You've probably seen these tutorials 100 times online on how to make these, and they're not hard at all. But I'm just going to show you how I do it because I don't use any patterns. Usually my petals are all freeform, so that's the difference there. Okay, so I have snipped this, and as you can see, it's not snipped all the way to the bottom, but it's open enough that you get, it's cut enough that you get it to move a little bit. And you want that because when you start rolling it, you want it to look as realistic as it can. So I'm actually going to make a really tiny one out of this one, and then the rest I'll roll regular. So I'm going to take this big glob of glue, which is, oops, probably way too much. Let me share it. And I'm going to just roll this into a little center. Okay. Now, you could do a lot of additional embellishing with these if you want to. After they're dry, which only takes a minute if you're using this type of glue or if you're using your glue gun, you could go up through the bottom with a needle and add some seed beads to it if you wanted to go that direction, which I probably will eventually. I just don't have a thin enough needle right this moment. But what I was saying about it still being loose enough, you can still open it up like this, and it looks like a real center. So you can open it up somewhat. So you don't have to keep them tight, is the point with that. Now this glue is still a little bit sticky that I had on my finger, so I'm just going to use that to roll this one. So you want to roll toward you and just roll it up and roll it up until you get to the end, and then you can take the tail and roll it back the other way, and that way you get a nice tight roll. And to tack it at the end, you'll need to use whatever glue you're using. I do recommend either a heavy tack tacky glue that'll tack pretty quickly, or your hot glue gun. I was trying to think how expensive mine was online. How many of you in your craft room lose things and then order a new one or buy a new one? Me, hands raised. I've done that before. Nice thing is glue guns aren't very expensive. Okay, so here we have a bunch of these little centers. Some of them are flatter, some of them are taller, and that's where we want to start. I had, this is kind of like a straw color orange. This is more of a tan. And now I have this pretty blue. And what I want to do with this, I think I want to cut the strip just a little bit smaller because I want to try something new where I don't fold it and I cut the little snips. Now, let me just give you a little bit of information about wool felt. Wool felt comes to you depending on how you buy it. Usually in sheets, either you can buy sample sheets, which are plenty big for you to use for projects like this, or they come in larger sheets. Whichever you get is fine, but if it's wool felt, it's going to have wool fibers in it. So when you cut it, even though you can't see it, little fibers are coming out into the air. So if you are allergic to wool, you may want to wear a mask when you're doing this. I would at least have some water or something on handy that you can drink and keep that from going into your throat. But additionally, you can wash your wool felt and iron it. To be honest, the wool felt that I have here, I have not had very good success with laundering it. And maybe it's because I'm doing it wrong, or I need to research better. But usually for this wool felt that I have, it ends up not being able to iron out flat again, and I needed to do that. I needed to iron out flat again so that it can, yeah, I knew this one was going to be a little bit tall, but we can give it a haircut. And I'll show you the difference of the two, the one that's washed and the one that's not. It's okay to use wool felt without it being washed, but I think that's one of the reasons too why you get those little fibers. So let me trim this off right here. This is just an experiment. I also saw something really cute when I was looking this up. In order to, let's say for example, we left this the way it is here, and we didn't trim it at all. I saw a lady using not a curling iron, a flat iron for her hair to kind of shape the wool felt. And that's definitely something that will work, because your you're actually, the wool felt takes to the heat really well. So that should be good. And she was using hers in particular to shape leaves, but I'm not going to do that tonight. I do have a small curling iron, but I tell you, you need a whole electrical system if you're going to plug in all these things: an iron, a flat iron, a glue gun, your cameras, a camera system, everything. You're going to need all this extra. So here's how this looks. Now it has a little center, but around it now it has these little kind of floppy things. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to cut off this one because I want it to be even. Let me cut off that extra one. And then I'm going to look for, okay, so I wanted to show you the difference. So these are samples, and this is from woolfeltcentral.com. And when I bought these several years ago, I just bought they have an entire swatch packet of every color they carry, and I bought that. So and as you can see, it's a large piece of felt that you can use, and you get different colors, like these modeled colors. Here are some other greens and browns. This one's called just antique white, and you get some creams, and they kind of just put the colors all together so you can get a nice selection. So that's what I did from this company, Wool Felt Central, and bought their wool felt sample bundle, and it gave me a lot of wool felt to work with. Now this particular piece of wool felt is from the same company, but it's been washed in hot water, and as you can see, it gives it a different texture, and it didn't iron out like I wanted it to. So that's the difference sometimes in leaving it without felting it with water, or just leaving it in its natural state. So you know how to make the middle, and you know that we can add this little fringe here if we want to make this kind of different. I wanted to see if I had any. Here's some darker. Did I use that purple already? Yes. Let me see if I can use any. I had made a whole bunch of pennies. If you're familiar with penny rugs, I made a bunch of pennies, and I had cut the circles out with a die cutting machine, and I kept all the leftovers, and that's where I'm getting some of these pieces of trim here. So if you've never looked into felt pennies, they're really fun to make. So now I'm just going to form what I feel will be good for the petal. And like I said, I pretty much do everything freehand. So no patterns are used. I think a pattern on wool felt, or a pattern that you get offline and you offline, listen to me, off of the internet. I hate when people say offline. It will usually, you have to print it out on regular copy paper, and then they just don't work as well, in my opinion. So maybe the only one that values my opinion is me. So it's been snowing here this week, and we're supposed to get snow again tonight. And honestly, I don't mind the snow because I don't go anywhere, but it makes the dampness, now that one's a little bit too skinny. The dampness just hurts my bones and my body. You all may have that problem too, but it's one of those things we have to deal with old age. It's a shame that I feel old already, but I do, because the pain is incredible sometimes. If any of you have dealt with fibromyalgia or arthritis pain, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I think what I'm going to do here, pardon me, let me get a drink. I'm going to trim these down just a little bit more, because I think I want them to accent the flower, but I think they're too high for the petals. So I'm going to give it a little bit more of a haircut here, and then it still flares out pretty good. So then I'm going to take my glue and start to add the petals. And when I add the petals, I try to overlap them just a tiny bit. Because I want them to go on, oops. I want them to go on, and when they're overlapped a little bit, it makes the top of the flower then look a little bit more realistic. Okay, so these two pieces don't want to come apart. I think I need more glue. But I love creating these. These are so fun. And I have been creating felt flowers for a long time. Let me show you these I have. These stick up on my, these have a magnet on the back, and they're on my light pole. And I think they just, pardon me, look really cute for all kinds of projects. But you know how you go through stages. You work with something for a while, and that satisfies your creative needs at the time, and then you go on to work on something else. That's kind of the way I am. So what I have been working on as of late are I have been working on cutting out the appliques from the fabric, like I talked to you about in my last video, and enhancing some black and white images with some pretty flowers. Now, here's the problem right here. This one is just a tiny bit too fat. So I'm going to put on there. He'll stay on. Okay. So here you have this pretty little flower. And since we gave it the little fringy in the middle, it gives it a more three-dimensional look and kind of gives it more of a realistic look. And then we have just gone around the edges and put the petals on, overlapping them. And you kind of will, as you look at them, you'll kind of get an idea of which size you actually need. So these remind me, this one reminds me of a flower called an anemone. And I've always tried to, when I had my home in different location, I've always tried to grow them, and I've never been able to. So I don't know if it's just that they don't grow here, or an anemone, or what the situation is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a square, and you'll have to forgive me. When I saw the lady do this online, I was so impressed, but I'm not that good. So I am just going to cut this so that it looks like some leaves. The lady I watched the other night, she just flipped it around in her hand and cut it, and then she had this bottom for a flower, and I was like, how did that happen that quick? Some people are much more agile than I am, I guess. So then we can put this on here. I think it's a little big, so let me trim off some extra from this. You just kind of get the feel of what you need, and you know, the size that you need once you start making them. Because what I want is I want this to come up over the sides a little bit. So I still think it's even too big to do that. This is a pretty small flower. These would be cute too if you're doing any type of garden party. I don't know if people do garden parties anymore, but you could certainly make these and put little pins on the back so that people could wear them. And there was a time when I think fabric flowers were more, or fabric jewelry was more popular. I don't know that it is as popular as it was, but there's one lady, I can't think of her name. I think her name's Trish or something like that. But anyway, she does a lot of repurposing. And one of the things that she'll make are either necklaces or these big fancy brooches to go on her outfit. And I think they're fun. I just don't think that I would be comfortable wearing them myself. But that's just because I'm plain Jean. Sometimes, I mean, I love to look at jewelry, and I love jewelry, and I love to take it apart and look at all the beads and the different things. But as far as actually wearing it, I've never been one of those people that have had fingers full of rings or lots of earrings or anything like that. I remember when I was young and got my first pair of earrings, they were these long dangly ones with shells on them. And then after I got them, I was like, I don't really like these. Okay, so you can see here where at the bottom, I put just this 4-star like leaf to cover the bottom, and then it comes up somewhat on the sides, and I like how some of them peek out. And then what we can do is with these scraps, we can always make a leaf here and make another one where we can put some leaves at the bottom. These might be too small. Let me see. No, they're fine, just so they stick out a little bit. Okay, so I hope you try making these because they're really quite fun and quite addictive if you enjoy any type of small craft. And like I said, this size or this teeny tiny size, these could go right on a tag or a card or something like that that you're making, and they wouldn't create too much bulk. And you can definitely dress up some of your flowers, make brooches, whatever you want to make. You can make 2 or 3 of these to go together and then put them on a strip of felt, and that looks really cool. So there you have some options for that, and I really enjoy making these, and I hope you do too. Tomorrow is Arm's Length Saturday, where we, several of us, get together and we make things, pardon me, that we can reach from our sitting spot and post every hour our success with that. So I don't think I might do felt flowers for a little while because I have all these centers, but I have some paper projects that I have in mind too. So we'll see how tomorrow goes and see how early I get up. Usually I'm one of the last ones starting because I'm a late riser. But I hope you all had fun tonight. I appreciate you visiting me, and let me know if you try any felt flowers, and have a great evening. Bye for now.